this, I'm sure, very interesting lecture by Ted A. Architectes. We are so glad to have here today, as you know, Jaume Mayol, who, together with Irene Perez, are the founders and the partners of this office in Mallorca, in Spain. So actually, we were always very interested, as you know, in bringing people that are not only into their architectural practice, definitely into the architectural practice, but also connected, in this case, to teaching and to having a sort of a research in their own work and the way of acting as architects. Actually, Jaume and Irene have been professors in different universities. Jaume is also a PhD, a doctor in architecture, in the University of Barcelona, where he has been teaching, as far as I know, also in Madrid, also in some other international places, and actually nowadays in the TU in München. And he, in several German universities, as far as he was reminding me, Stuttgart and Graz in Austria, etc. So that's interesting and important to know, because I think their work is very much connected to this theme of thinking and acting. Something that, in my point of view, has to do with a very interesting question about how to be, in a way, radical in the approach to tradition. It might seem to be contradictory, radical and tradition, but if we think in the etymology of radical, it goes to the roots, and nothing probably more rooted than the local tradition, the tradition in architecture and anything. And I think this is very clearly recognizable in a work that is so deeply connected to a place, in this case Mallorca, but not only, because they're building in Switzerland and other places, but connected to understanding a place, materiality, crafts, in a way also climate, topography, questions that are very, very much connected to these issues that I'm mentioning when thinking about radicality in tradition, if I may say something like this. In other words, I like to follow your projects, listening to your ideas and to the way you present it. Something that has to do also to me with this issue of the house that probably he's going to show us, and how something that I read from you, this idea that all the houses are the same in a way, but all the houses are also different. Yeah? And this is very connected to this deep question that I like to mention, as I read in some of your cases, also the house of John Hudson in Mallorca, that everybody who has been my students know here, because in a way it represents very much this connection to the archetype of architecture, this idea of even an archaic connection that I find the architecture of Teda really brilliantly proposes in a world nowadays that is so much defined by globality and digitalization, and that tends to avoid this question. So thank you for being here, and it's your turn.
Okay. Well, thanks for the presentation, and also for the kind invitation of the UDK. Well, it's a pleasure for us to be here. I'm saying us because I'm not talking only by name, but also in the name of Irene, as Enrique introduced her. Irene is my partner, my wife, my everything. But also the other people we have in the studio, Tony, Albert, now Philippe, etc. We are a very tiny studio, but yeah. And okay, we are going to show you some things that we have been doing during these last years. But also, I will try to bring also some thoughts, no, that somehow are connected to those things, no? Hopefully. I will start with a book that in some sense, in some paragraphs, we understand it as our Bible. The title is Local Words. Okay, paraules is it's a Catalan. It's from a Catalan. I can say thinker, philosopher, whatever you want to call him, Pere Jaume. It's called local words. The translation is ours, then it's not that good, but okay. It says, we are where we are. The sentence plays demonically with the be and the stay be. Then depending on the place we are, we are. No place is repeatable, and therefore any corner of the world is worthy of reference. All the stones are valuable, all, and all places too. We could say that this is our place, this is our territory, no? We could say that the Mediterranean Sea somehow is our culture, no? It's our place in some sense. It's the place where we take the things from and where we put our things in. I will try to explain you 5 projects, I could say concepts better than projects, because I would like you afterwards, after the lecture, if you want to change the concept into another project, one of those that are here, you could obtain another lecture, okay? Then I'm not going to explain you, well, somehow it will be some detail, but not every project will be explained from all the sides, just from one side, no? Then the first concept is typology, then materials, then palimpsests, then craftsmanship, then infraordinary, no? Can Jaime and Isabel, or Jaime and Isabel home, no? Can is a way that we call to the houses of, the house of Jaime and Isabel, but we prefer to call them homes better than houses, no? And I would like to introduce the concept of typology, no? Or we could say also the tradition as that concept that creates typologies around the world, no? And how this tradition, this knowledge, is transmitted through time, no? And how we understand that we are part of this tradition. We are not in this new world and the tradition is dead. We are trying to bring this tradition forward. We are trying to work more and more with tradition. If we look back into that territory, into that place, into our Mediterranean Sea, and we join it with typology, we could agree that the Greek patio house or the Roman patio house is the origin of this typology, no? Of the Mediterranean typology of the patio house, no? Then we could talk about the impluviums in Pompeia and Herculano, no? These machines that always brings, these machines, I mean, these water collectors that brings the water inside of the house, because in the Mediterranean Sea we don't have that much water. But it's also a room without ceiling, then it's in a space where to develop activities, where to have a dinner, no? From Rome, this typology traveled to the north of Italy. Here there are some Italians, I think, that know better than me, but I will try to. All these palaces that you have in the Lombardia, that represents families, no? These business families that are in the north of Italy, no? And the patio became like the representative space, the main space of the house, no? But it's also a place where you can imagine those families having parties, no? With their businessmen, no? And it's a very interesting outdoor living room also, no? But always related to the water, no? Always related to this specific climate machine, no? It's a regulator of the heat and the cool of the house, no? And our businessmen, our people that were doing business with the north of Italy in Genova, not only were transporting things to Mallorca, they also transported the typology of the patio. This is a patio in the center of Palma, the main city of Mallorca, no? Where the typology is exactly the same that you can find in the north of Italy, but what changes is the resources that we have. They didn't use these marbles that they have in Italy, they use the sandstone. Our sandstone is called Mares, the one you remember from John Newton's house. No? Then all these columns and these arches are built with this sandstone that we have there. Then the tradition adapts the typology into this new situation. No? As you can see, also the section of the patio is related to the water. No? We have also a specific patio house. It's called, the patio in this case is called clastra. Clastra is close to cloister in some sense. No? And it's related, it's a country patio house that grows along the years. No? As you can see, there are regular volumes organized around a very regular and square empty space. Then the patio is that empty space that gives reason of being of to all the rest of the house. No? Then these units of structural units and space units are organized around this empty space. No? Then you have porches around and rooms around this empty space, around this room without roof. No? There was a certain point that we are quite interested in this last years, let's say, in this last century. It was the critical regionalism, no? Where those guys, John Newton in this case, took those traditional typologies into the modern, over the modern movement, let's say, no? Over the modern architectures, no? In order to bring these architectures that are more than local, no? They belong to that place, no? There are a lot of them, no? This is Marco Zanuso in Arzachena in Sardinia, in Italy, no? Where the house, it's only born from this empty space. You take the empty space out, you lose the house, no? You don't obtain another house, you lose it, no? Then what has sense is this empty space, no? There are some regionalists that come from Mallorca, no? This is a school, from the very early years of the century, from 1925, where they used to have an outdoor classroom without ceiling where to do geography classes or whatever, no? But always related to the water. You can see the system there, again, built on this traditional typology of the patio. We all could agree, Caesar again, or somehow all these Nordic architects, regionalists again, that came to the Mediterranean Sea, and they brought to the north of Europe some of these typologies that don't fit there, but they fit perhaps building a fireplace in the middle of this patio, no? Or putting some carpets, brick carpets into the walls in order to make it much more domestic, no? But if we walk around the world in this same latitude, we will find a lot of patios as oases, no? Or patios as villages, no? But we are quite interested in not only copying from tradition, you must copy it, no? But not only copying, but bringing it forward, transforming. This is Luca Galofaro again in Italy, no? An Italian architect that transformed an old photo of Procida, of the village of Procida, taken in the 60s, no? But bringing it into another point, into another place, no? Then first I will try to explain, this is the house, this is Jaime Isabel's home, no? It's in a very, we could say, it's in a, I would say, ugly urbanization, no? It's the typical urbanization. The landscape is not ugly at all, but it's the way it is cut, it's not very interesting. It's a very a typical plot of a urbanization, no? And this was the first photo we took from the place, no? Okay, the landscape is quite nice, no? This is the Palma Bay. You can see the sea, no? We are facing south. It has quite a lot of pendant, no? It goes down. It's not very steepy, but quite a lot, no? And this photo, I'm bringing this photo because it was our first thought, no? This is quite nice. The landscape is quite nice. We don't have to lose this landscape after building our house, no? Then the first strategy is that this guy that is walking in the street, has to see over our house. Then the house will be buried into the terrain. However, when we were looking closer to the site, like walking into the plot, we discovered that there were a lot of rocks. Well, the terrain was built up of these rocks that were there, just a very thin layer of earth or clay, and just underneath a lot of rocks appeared. And on the other hand, there were a lot of flowers, a lot of local vegetation that were building a certain garden, a garden that didn't need to be watered. It was already there, with flowers along the year. In some season it appears kind of a carpet of yellow flowers, then it appears a carpet of, or somehow some spots of white flowers, etc. Then it was already a garden there. Then the other point was that guy that will walk through the street will see over the house, but the roof will be made of green, of the same green that we have found on the plot already, that it will not be needed to be planted, to be watered. And in the middle of it, an empty room will appear. It will be a patio house in relation with this, let's say, culture, in relation with this tradition. Then this sketch, of course, was done afterwards, just to explain somehow how we proceed, but it's not like our thoughts are not that direct. Normally you walk around, but somehow we start from a very regular patio. How you think of a patio? Okay, you draw the more, let's say, human, the more handmade, we'll say, artificial shape, perhaps is the square. Then from that square, we start to transform this square in order to bring it into another point. We start to push the interior facades of this square in order to obtain corners inside of this patio, not a very regular patio, but an irregular one. At a certain point, we found that just pushing the center of the facades into the patio, we were obtaining 5 different spaces, 4 in the corners and 1 in the middle. Then that patio was transformed into a patio made of 5 patios. However, we thought, okay, we also could bring a porch in the center of this patio. Then we thought of covering, by now we are going to understand it as a porch, and we'll see how it finishes. But we thought, okay, perhaps we can have a porch in the center and 4 patios in the corner. Then that patio, that was the traditional one, perhaps can be transformed into this strategy of this geometry. And how we thought that we could organize the house. We are going to have always the street is on top and the views are on the bottom. Then we thought, okay, like these possessions, these clusters that you saw, we are going to organize a group of rooms. Each room will be a structural unit, and all these rooms are going to be organized around an empty space, like a necklace of rooms around this empty space. But some of these rooms are going to look inside of this patio and are going to define these 5 spaces. Like these rooms are in the middle of 2 patios and the central, let's say, porch by now. Then that patio is being transformed. This porch belongs to all this group of rooms. This patio, belongs to this group, but all of them are together. And then you start to discover that how interesting are the diagonals in between the different patios, the different spaces that you are producing, let's say. And the central part will be covered. This was a first more rough model we did, that was also having a certain artificial topography, like each room will be in a different height, then we are going to have a certain topography on top of it. Then if each room is a structural unit, this could be, it is, the scheme of the structure of the building. Each room is defined by walls. Each wall is a bearing wall. Each wall is a supporting wall. And every 4 walls define a room, no? It's simple, no? Another question was that all the services are placed around the perimeter of the house in order to obtain 2 different things. One is to have this massive facade in order to have more the appearance of strongness, but also more inertia. But on the other hand, in order to have like free views of the house to the interior of the patio, like when you open, you don't have like services that are disturbing you, like closets, like bathrooms, etc. All this stuff, it's around the perimeter of it, no? And there is only one door where you are going to get in. And this is more or less how the plan finishes, no? The street is on top, then this part here is in the terrain, let's say. We could say that all this area, it's the sleeping area, the sleeping rooms, no? Like the guest room plus 2 children plus parents, no? And all this area, it's 90 centimeters over this other area here that is composed by the kitchen, dining room, and living room. It's 90 centimeters, a difference of 19 centimeters in the level, because we didn't want to scarf that much, because it was a rocky terrain, as you saw. There were stones, then it was difficult to excavate, no? And it was better just to have these 2 levels that also organized the house, no? If you have these 2 different levels, at the end you have a certain organization of the house. When you are sleeping, you are on top. When you are during the day, you are in the bottom part, no? However, the house has a, if you analyze the spaces, no, when you can have certain highness, you can draw different plans of the space, no? Then if this plan is over the lintels run from 220 to 240, then this is a plan of the level normally over 260, for example, more or less, no? Then it's quite different where the walls are placed. Then the space changes in high, no? Well, I think this is also it's just a drawing, okay? But it's a drawing that I think in a school is quite important, or let's say useful to show it, no? It shows different things. On one hand, it shows the fight. When you are fighting, this is a huge plan, because it's, I don't know, 1 to 20 or something, no? It's a huge plan, because all these lines, for example, this small line that you have 1, 2, 3, all these lines represent a brick. It's 25 centimeters, 24 plus 1 of the joint, no? Then all the space, it's organized or modeled by these bricks, you know? But you can see a lot of things. You can see the pavement, you can see like interior facades, you can see here you have tiles, you can see beams, you can see columns, you can see a lot of things, no? But another thing that you can see is a lot of dead projects, no? There was a point where we were talking about building this in bolts, no? And as you are going to see that there were no bolts afterwards. But during the process, a lot of projects have to die in order to have the final project, no? And don't worry about them. Well, this could be like the constructive plan. I'm not going to get into it because I have some explanation later on, no? Of the 2 different levels, no? With this super simple scheme of having this necklace of rooms, 2 different levels, and some rooms that are into the patio, no? We could say that the street is more or less here, then we have the slope, no? And then we have the views. Now I'm going to show you a series of sections, no? That is cutting from the west wing of the house to the east wing, no? With this simple scheme that I explained you before, we obtain like the first section is like here we have the rooms, the sleeping room, the sleeping area, then 19 centimeters, and here you have the living room. This is when we cut through a skylight that it's next to the fireplace, where the smoke goes out, the light goes in. You know? However, all this section is interior in two different levels. When we cut a couple of meters into the back, no, we say, okay, this is interior, this is the living room, this is exterior, this is interior, this is exterior, and this is interior again. But this area here, it's 90 centimeters over. Then it's a super simple scheme, but it gives you a lot of different situations. This is interior, all this is exterior, then this is interior again, but in between appears this porch that we are going to talk later on. No? If we cut in the middle of the house, interior, exterior, cover it, but exterior and different levels, no? And I can keep on talking about the different sections, no? But the thing is that with a very simple scheme, the space can change a lot, no? Now we are in the reverse, in the transversal section, facing the street, no? And the same thing happens, no? What is also interesting is to see that architecture is made of a lot of things, no? It has bones, it has eyes, it has a lot of things that are building up already the space, no? For instance, here we have the bricks. None of the bricks is coated, of course, but we have beams that hold all the beams and skylights and a lot of things that are building up the space, no? But I want to go into this porch that we were talking before, no? At a certain point we were thinking, okay, this porch has to be able to bring the light inside of the patio in winter, but it has to bring some shadow in summer because it's in Mallorca, it's super hot. Then we did this, I will say this stupid model, but these are just the facades of the patio, no? Here you can see a patio on the corner, and we were studying this element, this porch. And we said, okay, these are stupid things that architect says, no? The roof is the fifth facade and so on. Okay, yes, yes. But we were drawing like this facade and the roof as another facade, no? But we were lying to ourselves, no? This doesn't allow to have more light in winter than in summer, no? It's not, it wasn't the solution. But we draw a lot, and I'm also bringing this to show you that, okay, the solutions are not, the next step is not the solution. You have to walk around to find it, no? And we normally, we don't know how, we don't, it's not a strategy, we don't know how, but we normally find the solutions looking back, looking into the tradition. This is a very small country house that my parents have in the village, no? And in front of it, in front of most of the traditional houses in the countryside in Mallorca, appears a vine tree. A vine tree is an incredible architectural detail. It's incredible detailed, and it's a constructive detail, no? Because in summer it has leaves, and it gives you some shadow. But in winter it loses the leaves, then it brings you the light in, no? And you only need a very thin structure to hold this vegetation, no? And the vegetation will finish the space, no? If you cannot, if you don't want to plant a vine tree, you can put some canes, no? Like the typical ones. I don't know the name of this in English, but some canes, no? Just to have this shadow, no? That you can take it out in winter, no? And when you look into tradition, you find these amazing spaces, no? That I don't know if I had to say that I love this image because here there is no architecture, or I have to say that I love this image because this is the maximum of architecture that I can think on. But I will enjoy it, I don't know, to invite you to a meal the 3rd of August under this shadow, no? Or to play a football match. I'm not that good, but into this space, because the space itself, it's amazing, and it's pretty nothing, no? Okay. Let me open another door. I'm gaining an image and a sentence. The sentence is from Louis Kahn, and the drawing is from Mr. Sigurd Leverens. No? We all know that Leverens built up this church without cutting any brick, with a lot of respect to all those materials that he was bringing into the site. No? And Louis Kahn, when he was lecturing in 1971 in the States, in Pennsylvania, he said that even a brick wants to be something. No? This is the plan that was supposed to be here also with us today. No? I'm not going to explain you John Hudson house. I'm not, because you all know this house. No? I just want you to explain one element of this house. Okay, this is the first room they built. This is a bed. This is a studio, a small studio. No, this is a bed. From this wall here to that wall there, you have 2 meters and 40 centimeters. It's 3 pieces of mares, of sandstone. Each piece is 80 centimeters. No, but in the middle of this 240 there is a column. Why John Hudson placed a column in the middle of a room that is just 2 meters 40? Because that column also wants to be something. In a house that is built of, let's say, masonry, is built of stones, is built of walls, also the column wants to be something. And what's more, it's a T-shaped structure. It's a column plus a beam, like this one. A column plus a beam. In the middle of this church, Leverens again, in the middle of it, in between all those guys and the priest, in between of it, he placed also a column that is also a Christ in the middle of the church. The reason is exactly the same. This is the Christ, or the T-shape of Hudson, and this is the column that wants to be something of Leverens. No? And how we built this house, looking back into all this stuff, no? Trying to understand that every element wants to be something. Then if we go layer by layer, and please do not imagine that we think like layer by layer, we think everything together and in a very crazy disorder. The outdoor facade was going to be very massive, but also bringing a lot of inertia into the building. As we were excavating, we were taking out all those stones. We were having a lot of stones that we need to bring somewhere. Then we decided to build like a stone deposit all around the house. This is a 60 centimeters thick wall made of cyclopean concrete, like stones and concrete, and that's all. Some without any reinforcements, just on the beams or the lintels that you have on the windows, no? But it's a place where to store all the stones that we were having because of the excavations, no? Then it's a waste material wall or facade, something like this, no? These are some references. No? Then if the outer layer is built of stones coming from the terrain, coming from the land, the inner layer, I think we prefer to have it much more domestic treatment, no? But if the outer is made of stones, the inner will be made of bricks. Then again, it's coming from the land, it's coming from the island, it's coming from the clay that we have under our feet, no? Then all the perimeter of it, of each room, sorry, will be made of bearing walls made of bricks. Then each room will be multiple of 25. No? But what happens inside of these rooms, we could understand that the walls also want to be more, no? Then somehow we introduce like furniture inside of the walls. It's furniture that you cannot move. In Spanish, furniture is mueble, no? Mueble comes from moving, but you cannot move that mueble. It's fixed furniture, I mean. That first of all was made of wood, and finally it finishes. We are going to see how in concrete, just not to be moved, no? But I also can explain you this project just talking about the tiles. We have a very traditional kind typology of tiles, is the hydraulic tile, that is these flowered patterns, no? That define the rooms, no? As you can see here, no? You have, each room is defined by a carpet made of these flowered tiles, no? Then we start to have carpets inside of each room. And I could also explain the project, each room, just talking about how these carpets were made, no? For us, it was a very important project because it was the first project that we did for a client. Before, we just did houses, houses for friends and family, let's say, no? This was the first client calling at the studio. Then I'm explaining this because it was 200 and something square meters. It was a super big project for us, no? Then what we decided is to work, this is the horizontal structure, the beams, no? In between each beam, instead of having this 60, 70 centimeters, that is the typical, no, one, no? We say, no, it has to be important, no? Then we decide to work with in situ concrete beams. Then we have, in between one beam and the other one, we have 1.25 m or 5 bricks, what is the same, no? We also can talk, but I'm wasting a lot of time. We also can talk about the thing we have in between the beams, but okay, this is not the thing. Then what happens inside of this porch that I was promising to the client or to us also, no? Then the different directions of the rooms, of the structure that we have in the interior collapses inside of this patio, bringing us a non-finished structure, a kind of a ruin, that will be covered when the green of the roof will grow. Then in summer, this will be like a shadow, a vegetal shadow, no? And the corners will be the patios, no? But this becomes an illness, no? As you can imagine. What happens with electricity, no? Also, electricity wants to be something, of course, no? Then what we introduce in a strategy that is substituting some of the bricks for a wooden block, and on that wooden block we could screw some plugs, some surface plugs, no? In order not to cut the bricks, in order to bring the cable into the plug, no? Just to substitute some bricks for some wooden blocks in order to screw the plugs. Like here. You can see the double layer of bricks, then in between, and this is prepared, this is ready, like this, to put the wooden block where to screw the plug. This could be seen as a texture of a wall made of bricks with sunshine, no? But it's not. If you pay attention to the joints, no, we could say, okay, this is A, this is B, this is A, this is B, this is A, this is A, or not? No, this is A, this is B, this is A, this is A. Here there are two, A, B, A, B, A, B, 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 two. What happens in these two layers that come together? Why it's not broken again? Because the bricks are 5 centimeters high and the plug it sits. Then we need 2 layers to place a plug without cutting any brick. But that doesn't matter. It gives you some, we could say ornament in this school, see? Well, then some ornament, but it's coming from the needs of the construction, no? But this is, well, in a small model we built of this frontal area, no? Where we can start to see all these elements coming together. no? How the beam that hangs on a beam, no? The windows where there is a lintel over the window, not a kind of a brick hiding a lintel, no? That every element wants to be something. Is the last one, no? But okay, if we have a house made of walls, also the column wants to be someone, no? Then we need a wall, a column, no? And this is the column. And why the column is not here, in between, where the beams are crossing? Because the column doesn't want to be a beam, the column wants to be a column, then we move a bit the column in order not to be in the same position where the beams are crossing, no? But what happens on the floor? Normally we see the columns just struggled with tiles around of it, no? But we all know that the columns are going down to look for the foundations, no? There is another element that, of course, wants to be someone, no? And then this hole around the column is not a mistake of the model, well, of course, no? And it was supposed, well, we talked to the client, he wasn't, well, okay, we talked to the client and we say, no, here we can put some sand or these balls that the children play, no? Some soft material, no? In order to say, okay, if you want to look at it, you can scarf and you can see the foundations, finally. Okay, they didn't agree that much, and but we found another solution. Let's say we are going to see later on. Okay, then here you can see like the living room with the furniture, etc. No, well, the very last one. Of course, we have 2 layers of bricks. No, then if you imagine the lintel that holds these different windows, no, this could be kind of a P-shaped lintel. If you imagine the lintel that we have outside, of course it's not a P-shaped, it's another layer of bricks, no? In that case it's a T plus a C, no? Then it's kind of, every element wants to be different of the rest, no? This particularization of the construction, no? Okay, this was more or less the house 2.5 years ago, no? And well, it's interesting because the house is suffering exactly the opposite that I'm suffering, no? Its hair is growing, no? Year by year, no? And now it's coming into the wild, no? And you can start to see, for example, also the texture of the wall, no? Made of this crocante. This is not English, but this crunchy facade, this texture in the facade, where some small herbs will grow, and perhaps you can find in some years some snails, no? But this is the promise, no? When you are in the street, you can see over the house, and the house is part of the landscape. It's not hidden. We don't have to hide architecture, but it has respect with the landscape, no? Then you start to see all the patios inside of it, no? And there is only one door. Then it's easy to see and to know where is the entrance, no? This is the front facade, no? And when you are in the plot, because the street is higher, you still can see the sea over the house, no? Here you can see this texture, no? And now we are in the photo of the model that I showed you before. I don't have time to explain the tiles, but later on perhaps, no? And you can see that it's built of, the interior, it's built of elements and elements overlapping. We try to take these photos without furniture, just to explain how rich can be architecture when it's finished. But I think that in this case it's not finished yet. It needs the next layer, the life on it, no? I have some more photos later on, no? And here you can see the column, no? Well, it's a kitsch detail, no? But at the end we put a mirror not in order to say, okay, this is going down, no? Well, it's a bit kitsch. I don't like it that much, but it's just to be coherent with the explanation, no? Okay, here we have in the dining room, no, like in between patios, no. This is the other patio, and the kitchen we see in diagonal, no. Then you see like plugs, well, switches, plugs. You see all the elements, no, like layers of bricks. Well, we're getting into the kitchen, look into the living room, no. It seems that there is furniture already, but it's not, it's just architecture. And sometimes you try to have fun with elements that are hanging, no? Blinking on an eye with some mirrors, no? That seem space but are not. This is the dressing room, no? It seems the space is continuing but not. But this is the detail, no? You can see the couples of bricks in these two rows, no? And also here. Now we are going to the children room, no? Where you have these desks and the window in between the two rooms. From this desk, when you are sitting, you can see the sea through the dining room. Well, this is a very nice window that will disappear when they will start to have a boyfriend, but it's fine. And then you get into the oasis, no? Into this patio, no? Now we are in the diagonal, and with this structure that is still unfinished, no? I have some photos in my cell phone from yesterday. It's more wild because I was there yesterday. It's wilder. We can look at them later on because it was just finished here, no? And it's quite poor. You can see the vine starting to grow, no? These diagonals, no? But when you see the green, it comes much wild and much more interesting and much more human, in fact, no? This is from the last year, for example. It's not this year, but the last year that you start to see like this boof. Yeah, okay. Let's change the project. We have been talking about materials, but let's talk a bit more about material, no? Because as you have seen with the rocks, with the stones, as we use them, we understand materials from the waste, no? From these waste materials that anybody wants, the things that anybody wants, we use them, no? And how we can introduce patina, the patina of time, inside of the buildings, no? As another material, perhaps, no? In our education background, we don't throw anything away. We reuse everything, no? As example, this photo is taken in a village where every house has, it's a new village, let's say, from the 15th century, no? That every house has, most of the houses have two facades in one street and the other street. Then there is a main street where they have the house and another street where they used to have the garage. Well, centuries ago, they used to store there the cart with the horse, no? Then there was no concrete, no reinforcing concrete, no metal. Then they used to build arches made of stones, no? And they used to put a door that is opening to the interior of this garage, no? However, nowadays they are not having horses, they are not having carts, they are having cars. And the cars are longer than the cart, but they have beams, horizontal beams. They can use sliding doors, better than these ones that open to the interior, no? They can substitute the arch for an horizontal beam, but they don't throw away the door. The door is exactly the same, but just adapted. It's a waste material, reused material. Sometimes it has a very nice solution to solve the different geometry. This is another example but yeah, okay, I can explain you. This is at home. This is a very huge pot. It's where we do, I don't know if someone knows what is sobrasada. Someone knows. It's yeah, how can I explain? I don't know, no? Well, it's when, okay, I will explain you very roughly, okay? When we kill a pig, okay, with the meat, we do a kind of a meal to eat, a spread on a bread, no? And it's made of the worst part of the meat of the pig, plus some fat. But it tastes super nice. And this is the pot that we use to mix everything together, no? And it's a very important pot in the family, in each family, of course. This was my grandfather pot, and someday this is the same pot, of course, and it broke. It broke one day. I wasn't there because I didn't meet my grandfather. However, instead of buying a new one, he restored it. And how he restored it? These metal elements are small parts of the radius of an old wheel of a bicycle. Then it's two things that are broken can make a new one. Okay? We have some Frankensteins. But this is also another how to transform an obstacle into an advantage, no? As you can imagine, this was very steepy, rocky landscape. This is the Tramuntana Mountains in the north of Mallorca, part of the World Heritage stuff, no? But it was impossible to plant a tree over those rocks, no? Over those stones. However, if you place those stones, those obstacles, in a certain way, you can build these drying stone walls that allow to have some earth on it, building this like a stepped landscape, no? And because it's dry, it allows the water to go out, no? Then from the obstacle, we build something new, no? I'm not good to stop anymore, but just to say Josep Maria Jujol, you have to write down and to look for him, okay? He used to reuse a lot of things, okay? I'm going to talk about this house there, in a corner of this small village, no? It's important this is in a corner, no? Because normally in Spain, no, or in Mallorca, all the houses are in between party walls. You only have one direction, a street patio, nothing else. But when you are in the corner, you can have two directions, no? Like this different direction. You have the third facade that allows you to have all these directions into the house, no? Then we transformed the structure to explain these different directions of the house. These spastic shape walls that are bearing walls again are organizing the house in relation to the position in the urban in the urbanity, no? Then in these walls we opened windows, not only to the exterior but only to the interior, in order to have like these views from in, out, or in, out, or to have these relations, no? And again, the strategy of placing the services into the perimeter in order to have more connections in between the rooms that build the house, no? Okay, this is the ground floor level where we have 4 different rooms, no? Like dining, kitchen, living, and studio. Each one is placed in a different level in order to have identity, each one of the rooms, and specificities, each one of the rooms, no? And the first level we have the sleeping rooms, and once again from this simple scheme we obtain, let's say, interesting sections, no? That brings you some complexity into the space, no? This is not clear, but we are talking about material, okay? Before, in this plot, there was an existing building, an existing construction. It was a kind of a garage, no? built with sandstone pieces, pieces of 80 per 40 per 20. Then this is it, 80 per 40 per 20 deep, where you can see these small holes with a very thick joint. In order to reuse these stones, we didn't demolish the building. We just dismantle it. We just put the stones on the floor again in order to be stored and to be reused. This was the hidden site. This was the site that we were seeing, but this is the 80 per 20. It was the hidden site. We store them. How this stone was working before? We used to have, well, this building was done during the 60s, where the mortars were not super sticky. They need to do this scarf, this fishbone scarf, in order, when they were putting one stone over the other, they were putting some liquid mortar inside of this joint that was coming down the stone, and was sticking, putting the stones together. However, now, if you want to reuse these stones, the mortars that we are working are the chemical components, don't allow them to use them in the same joint in 3 centimeters and 1 millimeter, because it will not work. It has to be flat, clean, etc. And what we did is just to transform the stone, cutting it perfectly in two, then having 20 per 20 per 80 if the stone was the whole stone, because if it was cutted already, it was shorter. If it was breaking during the process, it was shorter, but maximum 80. We cut it perfectly. We get the sides super perfect, and then we turn it. Then the hidden side of the stone now became the facade. The work that the old craftsman did before was now part of the facade. The relief was part of the new facade. And the patina of time will also become part of it during the years. There was one moment where we were building the wall, where the builder asked me, well, they were starting from one side and the other side, and they were meeting somewhere in between the two builders. And one of them asked me, and what happens if we meet and we have a gap of 5 centimeters? I say, okay, don't worry, you put another stone, because we were playing with the stones of 40, 50, 35, 47. It doesn't matter. You take it out and you put a longer one, with 5 centimeters longer. Yeah. You don't know how much they weigh, no? Can you hold one? No, I'm not super, no? Then, no, you need to find a solution, because when I'm here in the bottom, it's fine. But when we are going to be up with the stone, just taking in and out, and it will not work. The problem was he wasn't convinced of having this texture into the facade. No, he was trying to convince me to plaster of the facade. No? Then I came to the studio. Irene, we need to find a solution. No? And this is 20 per 20. No? I don't see anything. Probably you neither. But okay, for those that have been in Mallorca, no, we have a very typical, traditional, and very cheap material. It's the clay tile. It's more or less 1 centimeter, 0.2 or 0.5 thick, but it's 20 per 20. No? Then we said, okay, if you have a gap of 3 centimeters, you put 1 tile. If it's 5, you put 2 tiles. If it's 7, you put 3. If it's 15, you put sandstone. He said, well, but it worked. No? Then at the end, we have the old sandstone plus some gaps filled with these tiles. No? And there were some other points. Well, these are the tiles, you see, here, these two. And I have to tell you that It was funny because at a certain point he started to find it, let's say, sympathetic, no, nice. He was calling me, sending me WhatsApp photos. Can I put a new tile here and there? I say, see, you can do whatever you want, no? And then there are some that are fake. Then it comes from him, but it's perfect. No problem at all. No. Then this is the hidden part. But there were some points, like when we were starting, or around the frames, or at a point when we finished the old stones, that we need to use new stones. The thing is that in Mallorca we have a lot of quarries, a lot of. But if you talk with the one that knows about marais, he can tell you where is that stone coming from. Normally in the villages in the 70s, in the 50s, they were using the stones from the same quarry. In that village, from that quarry, in that other village, from that other quarry. Then it was easy to find the quarry where the stones were coming from. No? Then we went to the quarry. Probably those first ones went from here and now are from there. The color is different, but they are kind of partners. No? They are kind of fitting together. Fitting together because of the density, because of the porosity, because of the strongness, all this stuff. No? Then this is the old and the new sandstone, no? And this is more or less the result. However, you never can build one building with just one material. If you look at whatever you have on, it's not one material. Here it's impossible. You have the joints and you have to solve these joints, no? You have to solve buttons, you have to solve things, no? And we could describe these arches, no, as made of these mortar blocks, no, concrete blocks, no, but not. In between the blocks, there is something in the joint. Here it's much more clear. Without these wooden sticks, the arch will not work. The arch works not only because of the bricks, but because of the joining between the bricks and because of this element that you need to bring. Jujal again. In our building, in our house, we already have introduced this friendly tile into the building. And once again, we have stone and we have clay. Then once again, everything comes from the island, no? And we were during the construction, we were finding different, let's say, constructive problems, where we start to call again the tile to solve that problem. For example, as you have seen, all the windows are quite deep. Quite deep means, in this case, it's 1 meter 40. 1 meter 40 is 20 plus 80 plus 40, 1 piece and a half plus the facade, deep. Then this 20 is the facade. Then here you have tons of weight falling, no? However, we need to solve this ceiling also. The ceiling was done also with the stones, and which is the only shape you can build with the stones. You have to do an arch. You have to do a vault with those stones. Then here we have a vault. This vault is done with the stones of 10 centimeters in order not to add a lot of weight. But what happens if you join this vault with this facade? It will break immediately, it will build a crack, no? Then we call couples of tiles in order to build this break, in order to build this crack, no? Then this joint is solved with these tiles. But what's more, we need to do in these windows, we need to do handrails, no? The cheapest material that one of the cheapest materials that we can use to build this metal handrail is the reinforcing bars that you use to reinforce the concrete, no? And you can put it inside of the stone. But if you put inside of the stone and if they root, they will, as minimum, it will dirt the sandstone, no? Because of the oxide of iron that will fall from the rain and so on, from the water over the sandstone, no? However, it's funny because we decided to use again the tile, the clay tile. And why? Okay, we put three clay tiles. The one in the middle is a little bit cutted, just to put the bar in the middle. Inside of it, it's this point here, no? Well, this point here. But you have to know that these clay tiles are reddish because the component of the earth or the clay that they use is very rich in oxide of iron. Then once again, it will be oxide of iron falling over oxide of iron. Then once again, it fits quite well. No? Here you can see the vault, the small vault. No? And here you can see the handrail inside of the detail. No? And more details that came with these tiles. No? Here there is a joint, etc. No? I'm not going to get into detail, as I told you. You have the mixture of these different materials that are, and in the interior you have these windows in between the bearing walls that allow to have kind of different relations in between the different rooms that are in different levels. No? We are not going to be never anymore the first working in a place. Someone has been there before. It's impossible to be the first. Then something has happened in that place before. Then I have the feeling that we are always building a palimpsest, no? Sometimes because of the material you bring again, sometimes because of different things, no? But we are just a new layer of intervention on that place, on that site, on that plot, no? A palace became a city, and the church became a square. It doesn't matter, no? It's just these layers of intervention, of overlapping centuries sometimes, in our case years, because we are not that lucky to intervene in those incredible spaces. But most of these spaces have been circus before, right? Now they are a square, no? Lucca, no, for example, again Italy. Sometimes you see very architecture with a lot of respect to the past, no? How they built a kind of a new language, no? But just listening to this past that has been there before, no? Just respecting it, no? Sometimes very traditional, very traditional. Sometimes with architects that we all know. No? We took this project. This is the Palma City Center. It's a very normal apartment. It's an apartment from the 70s. No? It's in a corner. This is a street, and this is a street here, and this is another street. The entrance is here, no? And this is how, more or less, we found this apartment when we arrived, no? It was just a facade without any isolation, just a piece of a sandstone with a structure inside of it. This is a cantilever, no? Then the structure was inside of it. It's a 70s building, no? What we did, I'm just to explain you the project quickly, just to go back to the palimpsest, no? We introduced 3 closed rooms, no? Then bedroom, and kitchen, and opened spaces like playground or entrance, dining and living in between them, connected in diagonal in order to make bigger the space. No? Then some furniture appears in order to divide the interior of the rooms and the exterior of them. This is how it finished, no? Overlapping all the layers of intervention. But this is how it started without knowing ourselves that we were doing this strategy. This is the first, let's say, croquis or scheme that we showed to the client. No? We say, okay, we have support, but there is already a support made of sandstone, made of marés, this facade, but there is already a layer making the structure that is independent of this one, because it's this offset, no, to the interior, and it's not sandstone, it's concrete. But we need to isolate of the facade, and we are going to protect this isolation with ceramic, with bricks, somehow, we didn't know at all. And then we have to add these 3 different rooms that are going to be with a light material. Then we thought on wood. Then if you present this project into this school, you will fail, because, okay, 4 materials to solve 4 things, no? But we took it as just listening to the project and answering to every need with the material that need was needing, no? Then if we go step by step into these different layers, no? The pre-existing was this perimeter, this support, no? This is how we found it the first day we were there, no? Kind of like yeah, post-war look. That was in the middle of the crisis, no? It was a girl that has started to work on the apartment and decided to sell the apartment to a new owner, our client, no? And it was like this, no? But there was a structure that was not super clear, because it's not a very clear scheme, no? But it was there. It was super present, no? All this structure with beams of different sizes. Well, it wasn't a structure to be seen, but it was there, no? And when we were looking precisely to this structure, we found that the beams of this structure were built. This is a system that was used during the 70s, I think, in whole Spain, but I don't know that much. But it's an in situ prefabricated beam, no? Let me explain. It's a U-shaped piece of clay where you used to put like 1 bar of reinforcement, and then you put you pour the concrete, no? Then it's made of different clay elements, no? Each beam, no? We thought, okay, this is another layer to show, no? It will be super nice to show all these beams in between as part of this intervention, no? But well, okay, as you have seen or not in the first slide, there was a concrete pavement that wasn't the original. Someone before, another layer of this palimpsest, having this distribution, these walls, no, and these closets and these walls and so on, someone poured some concrete in order to get another pavement. And what we found is that someone has demolished all the walls. Then there was kind of a scarf, a cut in between this pavement. That was the old wall, no? Then we need to solve this constructive problem. There was a problem. The first thing, okay, we are going to pour some concrete, no? And we are going to solve it. But not, because the concrete will never look the same, because the color will be different. And the concrete, as you know, when it dries, it comes smaller, then it will crack. The joint in between the old and the new will crack. Then we said, okay, no, this must be a new layer. This previous distribution must be a new layer. What we did is to infill these cuts with another material that doesn't get smaller when it dries, no? In this case, we said, okay, it has to be an important material, like another layer on the concrete must be important. Then here we used marble. It's a very cheap Spanish marble, no? But we used marble to infill this gap. This is how we found it after cleaning a bit the bricks, no? What happened is that the 2 sides of the wall was the same level, because it doesn't matter if it's 1 centimeter higher or lower. When you pour, you don't notice, no? But when you take out the wall, you notice perfectly. Then first we need to put everything in the same level. Then we need to cut it like in parallels, just to make the work of the stone guy easier, a bit easier. This is cut parallel. Then we infill it with gravel, but behind the gravel we use it as a conduct to pass the cables, the electric cables, no? Because it was 10 centimeters high, no? It was super high. Then, well, this is super nice. It's a puzzle, no? We thought that, okay, the idea was, okay, if it's possible, if it was possible, if it has been possible, we used to use just one piece of marble, but of course it wasn't possible, no? Then we cut it in different pieces, strange shapes. Why? Because if you want to make this continuity into these stones, no, you can never have a cut here, a joint here, or there, or here. All the joints are in between corners, let's say. Then here, not here, never, not here, never, but there, not here, but there, not here, not here, but... And of course in here we have a problem because this piece is a T-shaped piece that you saw in the first slide, no? Then at the end, when we polish everything, you obtain like this new layer, solving a problem, a constructive problem, not only a shape or a design or something, no? It's a constructive problem, no? Then as isolation, we used cork that the client had from an old work. It was how you say, not waste, but sobras, well, for those Spaniards. Well, leftovers of isolation, no? We decided no, he imposed to us to reuse them, no? But we need some clay to cover this isolation, no? And we went to a factory looking for a cheap material. And they were looking to us like, cheap material, we don't have cheap material. We are doing bricks and we do these bricks, but what are you doing with what kind of pieces? We are looking, I don't know what, but we are wondering what kind of pieces they were doing, no? And at a certain point, we saw in a corner, the client and I were there in the factory, we saw an amount of bricks full of dust, I thought, but what is this? I thought they were like wrong pieces, no, from the production, no? He said, "Ooh, I'm never going to sell this." I thought, this is mine. Okay, yeah, and why? Okay, in Spain, okay, we have, perhaps also here, I don't know, it's called termoarcilla. No, it's thermoclay, nothing. Thermal bricks, okay, thermal bricks, no? But it's a system. Termoarcilla is a system that you have to put two bricks together because they have kind of teeth, no? Then you have to put one into the other. Then they have male and female, no? You have to put them together, no? And you cannot cut a brick. You cannot cut a brick because if you cut a brick, you cut the cells, the air cells. Then the system is broken. You cannot use it anymore as isolation. Then what they do is they have like pieces of joint. The normal pieces are, well, the normal pieces that we use here, because they have different sizes, but the one we use here is 19 per 19 per 19. And they used to have pieces to join of 5 centimeters and 10 centimeters. However, in Mallorca, anybody well, use this system. Everybody breaks it in order to, they don't use this joint pieces, no? They just cut it and then put them together, well, it doesn't matter, no? However, the factory has to produce these pieces in order to have the stamp of the system. Then they produce it, but they don't sell it, but they have to produce them. Then I said, okay, we can have all of them. If you don't need them, we can bring to the site and we are going to use it. Well, but the price starts to grow. when our interest started to grow, no? But at the end, we paid 50%, and it was super nice. Then, after this, these are the pieces, no? Normally, this is used to build a wall in that sense, no? This is the pieces of 10, 5, 10, then they sell normally in these 3 pieces, no? You get 2 pieces of 10 and 1 piece of 5. But we didn't want to lose 19 centimeters. Then we use it on the opposite way. Then this is the facade. This is the thing we are going to see, the hidden part of it. Then our brick that will cover the isolation will be maximum 10 centimeters. But what happens with this side that has this thighs, when you want to put a plaque on it, you have a problem because it's not flat, no? But as I said before, this is 19 per 19, and we have our famous tile that is 90.5 per 19.5, in fact. No, it's not 20 per 20. Then plus the joint that we have in between the bricks, it fits perfectly, no? Then we have the cork. Okay, we have a plinth because the height of the interior height is 2.70 meters, not 2.60 meters. Then it's multiple. It's not multiple of 20. Then we need to have this plinth. Then we place each brick in vertical without breaking the joint, showing that this is not a structural wall. Then having some of these tiles when we have a beam, not to cut any brick, no? And to solve the corners, these tiles, no? But also to solve the electricity, no? These gaps that the brick is missed, no, it's 20 per 20. Where to place the tile? In the tile we did some small, precise holes in order to take out the cables and to screw our nice switches. And then the rooms, no? The wooden rooms. I'm not going to get into the details of the joint and why the horizontal and the vertical, because the horizontal wants to be horizontal and the vertical wants to be vertical. I'm not going to get into this, but we work quite a lot into the carpenter place, no? And with him, just putting things into the place one to one. That's it. This is the client, not the carpenter. And then, okay, we need to bring also the light in the middle of the room, because we have the plaques in the wall, no? And we don't want to destroy the ceiling either, because the ceiling also was nice, no? Then what we did is to have a tube hanging from the ceiling where we are going to put the cable inside of it, and then the bulb will drop in the other edge, no? But if the ceiling is super rough, no? The tube will be super bright, like super in contrast with it, no? And it will be a brush tube. And also the geometry will not be straight, it will be super soft curve, no? In order to bring this light with the cable where we want. It can work alone, in couples, because this is under the long dining table. It can laugh, no? This is because here we have a window. The window opens, and the plug is here, and the light is there. This is the system, no? And this is everything together, no? Well, this is one of the corners before having the wood. This is before the wood, no? You have to have these different layers of intervention, no? Then we came with the wood, always with the client there. And we build these kind of rooms or structures that close the spaces. We have the plugs, the wood, no? And this diagonal that joins the different spaces. Then it's a kind of a palimpsest. Well, there are some corners that we need to have fun also, okay? All these things, most of these things, are possible because in Mallorca we still have a very interesting and important net of craftsmen, okay? And I think that nowadays it's kind of more and more. It's not dying as it was perhaps 20 years ago. Now it's more in shape. No? And we are trying to work a lot with them, to learn a lot from them. No? And I love them because of this second sentence I've written there about the perfection or the imperfection. No? I have to explain you that this work to the way the builder was checking if it was fine or not. It was with closing the eyes and touching the wall with the hand. And this is completely true. No? It was like touching to see the imperfections. Okay? Then this perfection of the imperfection. Anything can be the same if you do it by hand, but it's much more perfect than if you do it with a machine. No? In some sense we can say the Bible, no? But okay. People that not only work, but they also talk with their hands. No? This is a guy that builds pottery and some kind of clay materials to constructive elements. No? And this is another guy that has appeared before. It's Sigurd Leverens again, no? Working in their site, putting with his hands bricks in that church. And this one is Jorn Utzon in Mallorca, working in Canlis with his hands. No? A lot of people that work very close and pay attention to these irregularities. No? And this is because of this net of craftsmen. This is one of the carpenters where we used to work, or a clay factory. No? That they have kind of these old tools, no? That are very useful. No? And we have to understand, as architects, this is another Richard Sennett book, that we are nothing. We have to work with them. They need us, but we need them. We have to work together. That's the title of this book. No? And if you work together with them, you can bring things forward, no? With their tools. This is a plot very well placed in front of the sea, where there was a pre-existing building. No? We didn't grow up neither 1 cubic meter. And in that plot, if we analyze the rooms that were closed, we can say, services, no? They were displayed on this way, no? This is a street, this is the port, then this is the sea, no? And they were not transparent at all, no? The only thing that the project does is this one. That's the only thing that we did, no? To open through the building, then we reorganize the services. We put the services into the party walls, into the sides, no? In order to allow the breath from the sea, in order to allow the cross ventilation, the views, etc. No? These are tourist apartments in Camp Picafort. No? And at the end, we have 4 different apartments with all the services. Let's say toilets, let's say closets, let's say staircases, kitchens, bathrooms, etc. on these sites. No? It doesn't really matter. Every one of the apartments has an outdoor space, no? Where to go, no? A terrace or a porch. No? But when you are defining, when you are having this strategy of saying, okay, I'm going to put all the services in that wall and in that wall, you are defining this space, just one space. Then the definition of this space comes from those walls. Then you just have to follow these rules in order to understand that each brick that you will bring will start to define this space. Then how do you want this space to be? No? I have to tell you that this building belongs to the same guy than the apartment. The guy that was holding the woods, Vicens, is the owner of this one. Then it was like a game, no? Okay, we started the apartment in 2011. We started this project in 2013, but the apartment is not finished yet. Okay, but this is finished. Then there was a kind of a game of saying, okay, we are going to bring again this piece, this brick element, no, in order to build this project. And he was saying, okay, fine, we can work with it, no. Then what we did to define this perimeter, we have to know, you have to know this thermoarcilla, this thermal brick can be used as a structure and also as isolation. But once again, he still was having this old isolation cork, natural cork, no? But the structure was also done. Then we didn't need this thermoarcilla as a structure, neither as isolation. Then we decided to place it in a very wrong position, just to show that this brick is not working as a structure, neither as isolation. It's just a finishing to define this space. Then this, that we can say it's something aesthetic, perhaps it's beautiful, perhaps not. It's talking about beauty, don't mind. But it's just to answer to the needs of the space and to the needs of the material itself. Then all this is 29 per 19, in this case is the 29. And I think that this pattern, I think, works the same way as these figures here you have in clay that have some colors in it. It's the same thing, no? Every wall is defined by these 30 centimeters, and when we have to plug something, we just retreat 1 centimeter the clay in order to have the plaster on it, no? This is it. And then again, more or less the same strategy. When we have find the corner, it becomes much more interesting. Then in the pavement, again, we use the clay, a very traditional tile, in this case, if 15 per 15 or 20 per 20. And we use also some bricks to mark a path, or, well, this is the entrance to the staircases, etc. No? And that brick was also used to do some ventilations, etc. Or some plinth. Well, the same material is used for many different things, no? To do in a small bench, like a handrail, but a very small handrail or a bench. And in a certain point, okay, you start to, in some sense, to solve some constructive problems, because this is super porous. Then if you do in horizontal, this will be dirty. Then if you want to use it as a bench, perhaps it's better if it's easier to clean. But also, we use the same strategy in the bathrooms, where we change just the dimension of the tiles, no? But when you have, where you can have more humidity, let's say, we all know what happens in these tourist apartments around the toilet, no? Then you put the glazed one, and then just few elements made of these reinforcing concrete bars, no? Well, everything in this apartment, well, and then life appears, no? But everything in this apartment is done by craftsmen. Also, the rock chairs, all this strategy of Enzo Mari, no? We did it with a carpenter, no? Taking the Enzo Mari typologies. But everything is done by hand, let's say, no? This is the cross ventilation, the views that you have to the sea, no? From the interior, no? And the previous structure is there. We could talk about these flowers. These are artichoke flowers, no? The artichokes in early June, they start to flower. Then anybody doesn't look to the artichokes anymore. But if you want to do very nice, no, it's fine. No, I don't have time to talk about this pavement, but okay. Some funny moments, no, when the structure collapses with the new pavement, there is some bloody tiles, no, around it. Now there is some vegetation around this support of vine tree. He's again Vicente with his son, no, in this terrace that is looking to the sea, no. And for me, it's the same thing doing this bench than doing this rock chair, no. It's the same strategy of the craftsman, of the guy who does things by hand, and they are never looking the same, but they have like always working with local resources, with the things you have at hand, no. We are finishing. Okay, all of these things and the things you have seen in between, all these thoughts, I think they are coming from the infraordinary stuff, no? These infraordinary things, these traditional things and thoughts are those that I think that can become timeless. It doesn't matter. We all love these patio houses that we have seen in Rome, in Florence, wherever, and we don't mind if they are 100 years before or after. It's just architecture, or we can talk about gastronomy if you want, but it's the same thing, no? It doesn't understand and doesn't need to know anything about time, no? Another beautiful book or interesting book, probably you know Georges Perec, but this book is not very well known, but it starts saying that the first sentences more or less are, or the first paragraph says that trains just exist when they derail. And the more people die, the more that train exists. In the front page of the newspaper, that train will appear. But the daily trains, the trains that are there every day, every minute, they don't exist. Anybody minds about the everyday stuff, just the icons, just the new things, just the bright things. We have a problem. We mind about the opposite. We mind about the daily things, the common things, the popular things, no? And while we were visiting Switzerland to overcome the Spanish crisis, no? In order to do competitions, we did some competitions and we lost the first 4. But we were taking photos of these old barns that I think that not a lot of people mind, no? It's older stuff that it's there becoming old. But they were amazing for us. We were going out of the main highways in order to see these farms, no? And this one is the first that is in the area of the village where we won the competition to build the school, no? And they always look the same, no? In this let's say canton, in this area, no, of Switzerland, no? It's always a very simple volume. Normally it's a squarish plan or rectangular, but it's a very simple volume built on a plinth, on a stone plinth, sometimes concrete, sometimes the newer one concrete, but the older are stone, like this one. And the volume is built in wood, no? And normally it has a double pitched roof or pitched roof, no? Every time is the same, no? The plinth, compact volume, regular plan, with pitched roof built in wood, no? But when you get in, you found that the structure is amazing, no? The wooden structure is the main thing that happens into this space, no? Well, I'm going to come back again, no? Sometimes it's very simple, but also these ones that are very simple are very beautiful. And some of these buildings that belong to, let's say, perhaps rich families, or perhaps, I don't know, perhaps to the carpenter, no? They have a very nice dress, no? This fish scale dress, but also made on wood, no? With some details that are solved in copper. This is exactly in the village where we built the school, no? Sometimes these scales are bigger, sometimes smaller, no? And sometimes prefab. This is the school. It's in the countryside, no? It's a very small village. And we took this strategy as a very direct strategy to solve the competition. It will be a building that will be as compact as possible. The plan will be as regular as possible. It will be built on a plinth made of concrete, and the building will be made of wood with pitched roof, and the structure, the interior structure, will be super, let's say important, no, for the building. It will be visible and will be important, no, and if we can, it will have a nice dress because it's in a school, no. It's a building that belongs to all the children, and it's where the society grows, no? And this is because of that, no? Because of the different resources they have in Switzerland. Of course, we cannot pretend to build in mares. It's as stupid as build in, not now, but somehow to build in wood in Mallorca, no? We don't have wood, no? Now it's easier. But we have to look to the resources that we have at hand in order to build what we want, no? Okay, this is the school, but it doesn't matter. And this is the model that we submit for the competition, this 1 to 500, no? It was a square, a plan, no, with pitched roof. It was built on a plinth, no, and made of wood. It was a super simple volume, no? And these were plans that we submit in the competition. These are structural plans. At the end, as you are going to see, there are small differences, but we just want to show them the structure is very important. Then we did the plans, no? Then the basement was built in concrete. Then the wooden columns start to appear, no? Then the beams. And of course, the beams are not on the columns, they are on the sides, because the beams are beams and the columns are columns. Then the strategy of the different directions to solve the program that they were asking to us, and the space that is in between, the empty space that is in between the different structures, no? But we draw all the plans, no? And we did also a model. This was going to be the plinth, then the primary structure, the secondary structure, and the result of it, no? And we were trying to be friends of those old farms, no? And we also submit this tricky render, because we wanted to show the structure, but we didn't know how, because we want to cover with scales, we want to have this dress. And at a certain point we said, okay, it's a competition, we can do this render just showing what happens behind, but it wasn't solved. It wasn't solved. But the interior was, okay, the structure will be organized in the space and will be important in that space, no? And these are already the final plans, no? This is the plan that is underground, no? Where they have this refuge, okay, the place where they are going to be hidden if there is a war. I don't know how to. A kind of a bunker, yeah. As you can see, the walls are thicker where they have more highness because the train goes down, no? And this is the technician and staff and the technical room and the storage, doesn't matter. But there is a column in the middle, okay? Then this column at the ground floor starts to be 4 columns, 4 small columns, and you start to have this rhythm of 4 rooms around with this, again, this svastic shape, no? Where we have a porch to enter. And in between the classes, we have the services. You have the staircase, toilets, and meeting room, and an empty space. If we go up, the empty space is there, then the meeting room is there, and the staircase and the bathrooms are in the same place. And the, I'm in the ground floor now, the porch has double height, but and the third level is covered with another classroom. No? Then once again, with this quite simple scheme, we obtained, well, this is the building plans, it doesn't really matter, and the scheme is true when we start to build. The way we organize this place is the same way we organize the construction, and from this very simple scheme, again, we obtain quite a complex space. No? It's just this svastic with some voids, some empty spaces. But if we start to cut the building somehow, you have the meeting room in double high. Now the double high is in the corridor, but it jumps to the ground floor. Then you have this Z empty space section, no, that finishes with the skylight. Then now you have a 3 stories high. No? Now the 2 stories is in the porch. Now the 2 stories is in the porch, but also in the ground, in the first floor until the skylight. Then the complexity of the space comes from the plan, but at the end, the plan is super simple. No? It's super easy to build and to organize. No? And as you see, every time you have the structure as a main character, as a main role. No? And I think that finally we solved that render that wasn't solved in the facade of the competition, no? Because our scales needed to have a superstructure, no? Then the superstructure was also in the facade, no? We have these scales, these wooden scales, plus the superstructure. This is a small mock-up we did with different woods, no? And we were happy to be able to work a lot, to lose a lot of time, because we have time during this process. I don't know how it is working in Switzerland, but in Spain sometimes a project can sleep in a room for months, then you are in a rush to solve something in 2 weeks. No? But in Switzerland, they're very well organized. Then you go step by step, step by step, step by step. Then you have time enough to solve everything. No? Then, for example, we did a lot of, well, normally we do the models 1 to 15, and we did a lot of them of this school. For example, the first one, or one of the first that we show normally also to the client was the porch, no? Where we did very specific drawings of how every element is built, like this structure, how this structure appears, how this joint in between these 2 woods, and how everything was there. But when you have the model, you can take quite nice photos with your cell phone, no? And it seems quite one-to-one, no? Because you have kind of the different elements that are producing the space, like the pavement, like the woods, like the bench, like the joint in between these 2. This is a beam, but this is the facade, no? And well, you have enough size enough to be precise, no? Or again, when we have a class, we did some classes, but this is one of the ones we did, the one that is on top, on the last floor. Was organized in a certain way that wasn't the comment, but it's not that important right now, no? But it's important to see that in this scale you can see how the beams are standing over the main beam, and how, for example, this kind of gap that can seem a mistake because this is thinner, this is thicker, this is because of the air conditioning of the classroom, no? Then you have some detail to solve the joint between the different pavements, how it will be solved. You have a certain scale to solve all these things. No? Then the building was trying to be related to those colors, to those farms that were around our site. No? And in a certain way, when we were to shot with the photographer, no, from a certain distance, you still don't know if it's an old farm or it's in a school. No, when you see from distance, when you approach it, you start to discover details and some precision and some well, the way the things are organized, the way the things they look, no? And you start to see that it's a public building, no? It's a building that is important for the village, no? Somehow, all these Cooper scales that are answering to a need, because all the snow that is standing on them will root the wood. But if you do the first one in Cooper, it seems also a kind of an ornament. It can be an ornament, I don't mind, but it's like a button, no? A button is an ornament sometimes not. I don't mind, call it as you want, no? Then, well, you have to imagine that until here, until the circle, everything is grass, no? And the circle is a place to sit around somewhere, no? There is a built circle outside of the school, and as you know, there is an empty circle in the middle, just to bring people together and to have this dialogue in between the interior and the exterior. No? We don't have time to talk about the columns, but here we have two that are massive, not that tall, a bit unstable, holding a black mass of wood, no? And in the middle we are going to find another column. The way this is built, the way this scale is hanging, makes that the water drops there, not there, but here, because it deforms a bit, because the way it hangs. No? What happens in the corners, no? This is the image of the model, more or less, no? When we go in, we discover another kind of column. Out, we have two. In the middle, there is only one. This one is thinner, is super high. Those one were 2 meters 20. This one is 12 meters. This one is high, is bright. It's thin, it's holding pretty anything, it's just holding light, no? Then there is also another kind of dialogue between what happens in the exterior and the interior. No? And all the time you have these like crossed views, no? And spaces that you discover, no? That are double high here, for example, no? Inside of this compact space, no? But where the structure is also the main thing that happens in the building. No? We are going up until discovering this column that it's opened in order to hold this huge skylight. It's kind of 4 by 4 meters, more or less, in order to bring the light inside of the space. No? Sometimes when you are inside of the classrooms, you still discover these diagonals, vertical diagonals, no? That brings you in until the skylight. No? If we go up, we still have this view from the meeting rooms. This is another question. Then we go into the classrooms, and we discover that more or less is the same thing that was happening in the models, no? The way everything holds the other, no? That's all. Thank you.